Marketing That Works is the podcast for business owners who want to move their brand forward so that they can bring in more sales and clients. I'm Danielle R, and I'm bringing you what I know from more than 12 years of experience in traditional and online marketing. I have created marketing strategies for businesses of all sizes, from multi-million-dollar corporations to early-stage online businesses. Remember, some marketers chase fads. I believe in mastering the fundamentals. The work for 2026 starts today. I'm in a season where I want more for myself in my life and in my business. And if I'm being completely honest, I did not show up the way I wanted to in 2025. I talked about doing big things, I dreamed about doing big things, but honestly, I wasn't afraid of failing in 2025. I was afraid of succeeding. And that's why I didn't put in the time, the effort, or the intention really required to really make any of those big dreams that I had real. So in today's episode, I'm talking about what I'm going to be doing differently right now so I can go after those big things that I want in 2026 without being afraid. Because if you have big goals for 2026, the work doesn't start in January, it starts right now. And I'm sharing the 3 things I'm focusing on to build the business, the brand, and the life that I want, and how I'm weaving those into how I show up, how I work, and how I move throughout my day. So let's get into it. Now, the truth is, 2025 didn't turn out the way that I hoped it would for my business. And it wasn't because I didn't know what to do. I knew the strategy. I knew the kind of content I should be posting and putting out there. I knew the structures really that I needed to have in order to be more consistent. None of those things were the issue. The real problem was that I was still carrying the story of crashing and burning out. I have talked about this a little bit before, but part of 2024, I burned out and crashed out after reaching some really big goals. And because of that crash out, my identity really has just been shaken. So a good part of 2025 was me just trying to feel like I'm back to normal. And I did. I got to that place where I was feeling really good and I started to feel like myself again. But I was ignoring the real issue that was at the heart of everything. I went after big goals, and when everything started working, that freaked me out and I slowed down. And I never addressed being scared of going after big goals and then actually reaching them. I never addressed that. And I don't think enough people really talk about this. We talk about feeling not good enough to go after goals, and we talk about never starting because we're scared. But I don't think we ever talk about crashing out because we are going after big things and getting them. And all of this was truly an identity thing. When your identity hasn't caught up to where you're at in your life or your business, you can't execute the strategy in a way that creates real change. Which is why I want to say clearly in this episode, strategy for me wasn't the bottleneck. Because if strategy was the issue in 2025, things would have looked very different for me. Strategy has never been my problem. I can think of plans for days and days and days. And I know for a lot of you, strategy isn't the problem either. Yes, there are always going to be tactical strategy things where you're just okay, this is what I need to do. I need to focus on this. I need to focus on that. But if you get that feedback, you get that information, and you aren't actually taking the steps to solve it and resolve it, that's an identity thing. You probably know the content you should be making. You know the posts that your audience really responds to, and you know how to plan a week, structure your work, how to batch things, be more consistent. You know all of those things because you've taken the programs, you've watched the webinars, and you've read the books. Like I said, lack of strategy is not truly the thing that's keeping you stuck. What is actually stopping you is the same thing that stopped me for all of this year. Your identity hasn't caught up to the size of the thing that you're trying to build. And that's exactly, like I said, what was going on with me for this year. And like I said, I was doing the surface level things, but internally, I was still living in the aftermath of that crash and burnout moment. And as someone who has had several major burnout moments in my life, a big fear of mine is being in that state again. And as I was going through and processing that, a lot of things that came up for me, in my journaling sessions, was I don't want to be stressed out. I don't want to be too busy. I want to be able to spend all day watching TV if I just need that. And yes, that's true. That's what I want to be able to do. But underneath that, like my brain made the connection that if I keep things small, I will always stay safe. Being small is safe. Never mind that that isn't actually what I want. I want my business to grow, but to create the kind of marketing and take the type of actions that will help me grow, I have to expand my capacity and my identity. And right now, part of me believes that the capacity I have right now is the capacity I will always have. So, by that logic, things must stay small. And that's why strategy was never the problem, because strategy needs belief behind it. Strategy needs a grounded sense of self. Strategy needs a vision of you who can actually believe that she can handle and do all the things and get the results that she wants. So if you're listening to this and you've been frustrated with the fact that like, I know all the things that I need to be doing, I know everything, I just can't get myself to do it, that's likely it. That is not a strategy thing, it's an identity thing. And until that shifts, the best strategies in the world will only get you a fraction of what you're capable of doing. So if 2025 didn't exactly go the way that you wanted because you were scared or because your identity hasn't caught up, I want you to answer the same question that I asked myself. What exactly am I building in 2026 that requires me to show up differently? And I'm asking myself this question because I'm not doing all of this inner work just to like be better, although like that is a worthy enough reason just to feel and be your best positive self. Like that is a worthy thing to go after. But I'm doing this because I want a bigger life, deeper results, a fuller business, and a brand that actually reflects who I am, what I stand for, and who I want to help. Like those are the 3 areas that I'm building towards, and I need to get super clear on that. So I want to share with you like where I'm kind of looking at for like those answers to that question. And then I want to break down exactly what it is that I'm going to be doing. So I said that I have 3 areas that I'm building in: my life, my business, and my brand. And so I kind of want to go into like what that looks like for me going into 2026. And the first thing in life, honestly, I want to get back into my travel era again. Like I want my Delta status back and I want my Marriott status back. Travel was always super important to me. Like ever since I was a little baby, I was always looking up at airplanes, always trying to go to some place. I want that back in my life. That's really important to me, to be able to connect and travel with people and cultures. I want that back into my life. I want a deeper connected social life. I want to be able to connect with old friends, meet new friends, and just build connections in that way. I want to work on my style. I want to work on how I just want to show up in the world. And I think a lot of people, when they think about business, they keep their life parts separate. And truly, I think you need to look at what's the type of life that you want to build first for yourself. What are your goals in that area? And how can you build your business, your brand, and everything else so it supports your life? So those are some of the things that I'm looking to build in my life area. Now, the second area that I really want to focus on, of course, is my business. I want to focus on building the business that I want and the business that gives me the freedom, like I said, to live the type of life that I want to have. And if I'm looking at the type of business that I want to grow, I want to have more one-on-one clients. I want to work with more people who have really big dreams. I want to do a lot more mentoring, supporting, and guiding. And that's something that I've been able to do, thankfully, for the last several years with the organization that I work with. But I want to do that on a more regular basis. I want to do more of like deep, high touch work that I actually love doing, a lot more long-term clients where I can just see the growth that they have over time. I love that. And in order for me to do that, like I'm going to have to focus on my back end. I'm going to have cleaned up systems, a good flow, stay organized, not chaotic. Because I know for me personally, if I want a business that grows, I need to feel like it can truly hold that growth. And the last area that I really want to focus on that I'm actually really excited about, because it's a bit of a pivot for me, is that I want to grow into a brand. Like I want to have a brand that really represents who it is that I am and the people that I want to help. Now, my brand so far has always been about marketing, the fundamentals, strategy, messaging, But that's not the whole story when it comes to building meaningful marketing. What I've learned over the years after working with lots of business owners and all types of niches is that marketing and personal development are very much connected. Like your identity, your confidence, the way you talk about yourself, the way you tell your story, like all of that is marketing. And in 2026, I want my brand to very much reflect that. I want my brand to call in people who have really big dreams and want to go after those big things. People who are ambitious, capable, credentialed, but might be a little bit terrified of making all of that work at the same time. People who know that they are meant for more, but don't want to mess up while going after that, especially in public. Like I want my brand to be like this really grounded space for people where they're just like, okay, I feel like I can do this and I feel like I'm supported along the way to do that. And not only that, like I want my brand to expand into showing the journey of becoming the person who can hold and do and have big goals that aren't afraid of being seen going after it publicly. I don't want to just talk about the tactics behind hitting a goal and to focus on those three areas, the life, the business, and the brand. Like I realize that I am going to have to focus on three things. I'm going to have to focus on my time, how I spend it, the structures that I have to support it, and my personal identity. Because if I want this life, if I want this business, if I want this brand, like I can't approach it the same way that I did in 2025. Like this right here, what I'm talking about is where the real work begins. And these three areas I historically have overlooked and underestimated. These three areas, these are things that I've told my clients to focus on. But at the same time, these are the ones I personally wasn't doing consistently all of last year. And I know from experience, from doing this in other times in my life, if I focus in on these three things, I will make big things happen. So for the first one, when it comes to time, I'm going to need to be way more intentional and less avoidant. I've said this to myself so many times, like, oh, I don't have time. I don't have time for this. Like, this is going to take a long time to do. But the truth is, I just hadn't been using my time in a way that matched the size of my goals that I had. If someone took a snapshot of how I spent my day, it was not clear at all that I was going after a big goal. It just wasn't. And so I need to be way more intentional about spending my time. Now, it doesn't mean that I can't have any fun or do anything, but it does mean that I'm going to have to be way more particular because I know that I'm at my strongest when I decide the three things that I want to do by the end of the day that will make me proud. I know that I'm at my strongest when I don't wake up just scrolling. I know that I'm at my strongest when I move with more intention instead of distraction and when I honor my word. And all of that helps me to feel more grounded, more steady, and like myself. And like I said, I spent so much time actually telling this to my clients. Like I tell them to look at where they're spending their time. I tell them to be more intentional. But because I know this information, like I got cocky. I'll just put that out there. I was cocky. And I was like, I don't need to focus on that. Like I know this. Yes, I knew it, but I wasn't doing it. So I'm going back to the basics because I know it works. And I want to tell you right now that you are not too advanced for the basics. Most of the breakdowns that people have when they go after big things is because they have ignored the basics. As much as we want not hitting our goals to be because of some big complicated thing or something way deeper, it's almost always because we aren't doing the basic things. So that's the first thing that I'm definitely going after. The second thing that I'm focusing on is my structures. Because one thing about me, I do not like mess. I don't like messiness. And I won't feel like I can grow if I don't have some type of structure in place that makes me feel like it is going to be possible. So that means a clean business backend for my clients, processes that create consistency instead of just relying on like energy and motivation, and really just systems that flow. Because I know every time I've been in a season where I felt locked in, it's because I had some type of structure. Structure helps me honor my commitments, it gives me clarity, and it helps me to build momentum. And when I say structure, like you might be thinking purely tech. And yes, for some of it, like I am talking about tech, For things like client processes and onboarding, sure. But really, what I'm talking about is how I go about making decisions and structure around how I prioritize tasks. Like, if I want a business that can hold more clients and get me more opportunities and help me to become the better business version of myself, like, I'm going to need some type of structure to support that. So, I talked about the time, I talked about the structure. The third thing that I'm really going to be focusing on is like what I said at the very top of this all. Like, I'm going to have to focus on my identity. Like, this is going to be the real work. The identity work is really the reason why I burned out before. It's the reason why I froze and why things didn't go the way that I really wanted in the end of 2024 into 2025. Because if I don't believe that I can hold on to the results that I won't create them. Or I'll create them, freak out, and then want to burn everything to the ground because that's what's happened before. Like in 2024, like I've said, I've hit big goals, the kind of goals that I had truly always dreamed about. And instead of expanding into them, I panicked. So in 2026, the identity work is going to be non negotiable. But when I say 2026, honestly, I mean like starting right now. Because if I'm going to build the life, the business, and the brand that I want, I have to expand into how I see myself. I have to believe that I can hold growth without crashing. I have to create a new baseline for myself of like where my identity is at. Like, I have to see myself as the person who does big things and not just dreams about it and thinks about it and like plans for it but doesn't actually do it. Now, I'm gonna do like separate episodes where I'm gonna go into like more details about what specifically I'm doing in each of these areas, but these three together are what will help me. Like, I made big changes in my life in 2019, and this is honestly the same practice that I had. I didn't have it nearly as formalized as this, but looking back at journals, looking back how I thought about things, like this was the exact same process that I used. And I'm just now like focusedly recreating that so I can go after big things again. That's why I know that it works. I know that focusing on my time will ground me. I know that focusing on my structure will support me. And I know that focusing on my identity will expand me. And together, this is the foundation of how I'm going to be able to build that life, business, and brand that I want. Now, if you're listening to this and you feel yourself like in a similar season of wanting more, knowing that you're capable of more, but feeling like your identity or your structure or your time is keeping you playing smaller than you want, then this is the exact work that I want you to be doing. And this is honestly the exact work that I do with my clients when I work with them one-on-one. Like, when I work with people, yes, we are working on marketing, we're working on messaging, but we're also working on your capacity and helping you to see yourself as the person who can absolutely handle growing all of these things. Because when you get clear on what you want, what actually fits your life, and you focus on the system that will help you make it happen, you're going to feel so grounded and consistent, and it's going to feel like a natural next step in progression of who you are. Like, you're going to be so excited to build this for yourself and for your business. So if you want your 2026 to look different, and if you want support while you grow into this person who can hold all of these results that you're asking for, go to the show notes and book a free call to work with me on this. We will talk about where you're at right now, what you want, and what needs to shift so you can actually build the business and the life that you have been dreaming about. You do not have to go after this alone. And honestly, you don't need to wait until January to make it happen. Your work for 2026, it starts today. And I want to be by your side and on your team as you make it happen. All right, y'all. Until next time, I'll talk to you soon. If you want more marketing that works right in your inbox, head to the show notes and sign up for the email list. You'll be the first to know how you can work with me on mastering your marketing.